Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Richard Hawk. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting, Life Unscripted. I'm so grateful to have you here this wonderful Saturday afternoon, wherever you're calling in from. But I know you're going to help us. You are the founder, CEO of Growth River, and the author of Navigate the Swirl, 7 Crucial Conversations for Business Transformation. And as I said just before we hit the go button here, our listeners are primarily business owners of all sorts, from right out of the gate to super enterprise. And businesses are always looking to grow and expand and keep growing so we can get more jobs out there and keep expanding. And you're going to be the guy to help us do that. But before we go there, I'd love for you to share what even prompted you to write your book.
I'm really passionate about having conversations that align people. And it just, I grew up in a family that did a lot of that. And that just led me to what I do, which is that in the context of business.
Wow. And now Growth River, I see, has offices in the US and Germany. What kind of brought you to the arena of Germany and that marketplace?
I learned German as an exchange student between high school and college. It was a pretty formative experience for me. It's actually, in many ways, it led to writing the book, because I found myself over there when I was 18, not speaking a word of the language. And then I learned to speak a language, swear words at first, and you work your way into other things. And that's kind of how you learn languages. But I got fascinated with this idea of, if we have the right language, we can have the right conversations. So I learned German. Then I met my wife in college, and she happens to speak the language. And we decided that we wanted to, we have 3 daughters, and we had made this decision that before they were high school age, we really wanted them to live outside of the country to sort of have a more expanded view of this little planet we live on and all the people on it. And so we took, for us, which was a very courageous choice in 2009, we just risked careers and everything and said, we're gonna move to Germany for a few years. And what was amazing is the universe kind of cooperated. Suddenly, all our jobs agreed and everything aligned up, and we moved there. And while I was there, I found myself with 6 extra hours a day because I was running my business in the US, and there's a 6-hour time difference. So I had 6 hours in the morning. So I started, having the conversations that I have in Germany, and it attracted a group of folks who were really interested there. And then we built a business there, and we published a book there as well in German. It's a different book, different audience, but that was published in October of last year by Wiley as well. But that's how I found myself in Germany.
Wow, this is fascinating. My dad was born in Germany, and unfortunately, as a kid, they sent me to German school, but I didn't keep up the language. But talk to me a little bit about working with, say, Germany, a European culture. There is a different culture. Do you work differently with your clients in Germany as opposed to US? Is there a different way of talking, a different language and conversation you have, say, with your German clients as opposed to your American clients?
Well, the topics are the same. The way you go about them is a little different. And in Germany, in particular, the majority of the businesses are what you call Mittelstand. They're the family-owned mid-sized companies. And so, we have one client over there who they've been very, very successful. They're just outside of Munich. And it's this family-owned business that builds, I guess the easiest way, modular housing for retirement homes, hospitals, that kind of thing. It's pretty sophisticated stuff. But it was a family-owned business. The daughter was inheriting it from the father. The mother and grandmother were in the middle of it. The brother was over here. You get those kinds of dynamics going on. You don't see that a lot in the US. You used to. When I first started, there were lots of family businesses that were going from generation to generation. You don't see that much here. There, that's really common. So it's kind of like business with a little family therapy thrown in.
Interesting. It's a different dynamic. So when you created Navigate the Swirl, what were some of the crucial, because it says 7 crucial conversations. Is there a certain conversation that business owners aren't putting on the table that they need to start looking at to grow more?
So all of the conversations are about growth.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is when there are a number of obstacles that business owners face to growing their businesses, but one of the biggest ones is themselves and how they think about their business. And there's this thing John Maxwell, who's a pretty famous speaker, came up with called the law of the lid, which basically says, a team or a business can never perform at a level higher than its leadership. And so that's the sort of the place you start, right? You start with that as a recognition that if you're going to lead, if a panicky leader creates a panicky team. A clear leader who's able to engage people in the conversations that matter creates a team that's clear and engages in the conversations that matter. So that's kind of where it all starts.
Yeah.
And then the conversations come out of that. And I guess I'd say one other thing to it, which is, I've worked with hundreds of teams. I don't actually know how many businesses, all sizes. And some of them I've been on their growth journeys for a long, long time, one for 22 years. I started with them when there were 4 scientists in a lab, and we grew to be one of the largest players in the DNA sequencing space where we were, with labs all over China and Europe and so on. And so I've been through all of the stages of this. And what I can say unequivocally is that businesses grow at the speed that teams form, and teams form at the speed that conversations occur.
And also, is that added to how much the leadership or the top visionary grows as well? Because as you start the conversation, it starts from the top. If they're not willing to grow, and that's something I found as a consultant, I would go into, companies, usually a middle to small, and they would be like, fix these problems, all this down here, make it all get better. And I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on right here at the top. And often they'd be like, no, we're fine here, just work down there. And how do you bridge that to get them to see that really it starts with building you first before you can build out the bottom pieces?
Yeah, yes, I have the same experience everywhere that I go. It always comes back to the lid, and it always comes back to the leadership. Except, so now the question is, well, which you're asking, which is, how do you get their attention? How do you get them to pay attention to that? And, in the book, there are lots of different ways to do that. But one of the ways to do that is to really begins with just a worldview, and the worldview is to recognize that your business isn't a machine; it's a social system, and that you're at the heart of that social system. You are the source of that social system. What you permit, you promote. What you believe in happens, and the results are a direct reflection of you. And so that's one place to start. And when you move from there, you also have to create. People don't learn because you tell them. They don't learn because you say, oh, this is a fantastic model over here, go do that. They learn because you create experiences for them that give them choice points.
Interesting. Now, what's interesting to me, I don't know if I forgot the name of the show, but there was this hotelier who has a show, Anthony something or other, on cable, and he goes into these struggling hotels, and he won't start out by just saying, here's all your mess of problems, get to it. He will generally go into the review section for that hotel and see what are the clients saying about you, and whether they're voicemail or Yahoo or whatever reviews they are, he'll put them on the table and say, here's what's going on in the world and what they're saying about your product, your hotel, and how do you feel about that? And I think that's speaking to what you're talking about a little bit, that's not telling someone, here's what you got to do. This is just showing them how the world sees how you're being, this hotel, and the existence of the world, how the world is receiving it. Now, what's your take on that, and how are you going to go forward?
I think that's exactly right. What you're pointing to is also, it's pointing to some fundamental truths about a business, or about purpose. So first of all, let's start with the idea of being purpose driven. Right. So purpose driven, having a vision you're going to head towards. When you have a vision, you've got two choices. You can either lower the vision to meet the reality, current reality, or you can bend current reality to meet your vision. Right. So right, as it's intended to be. So that's kind of the first thing. When you don't know who your customers are, you don't have a vision. Because the purpose of purpose is creating value. For whom am I creating value? So an organization that, isn't paying attention, a leader who isn't paying attention to their customers and that feedback, it's just evidence they're actually not purpose driven, regardless of what they may believe. And I think that's probably that place. And so until you get the purpose right, you can't get the vision. And until you get a recognition of what value you're choosing to create, you can't get a vision. And until you get a vision, you can't bend reality to meet it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's so interesting, because in the case of this case study that I'm seeing in my head here, they thought they had a vision, but really, if you're not in tune with the marketplace, you really don't have a vision. You might have an idea of what you want to create in the world, but if it's not actually creating that, and you're not making that connection with the actual outside world, your customers, you don't have a clear vision. So you have to get started with that first, and then you can go forward. Now, I'm curious, what's that bending reality? What's that look like? Do you have a story you could share around how a business did that and that you worked with?
I've been working with a lot of businesses who've done that, or are in the process of learning, how to do it.
Yeah.
So when people talk about transformation as being hard, they're talking about that bending reality as being hard. That's the hard part. And it's a journey that has an awful lot of uncertainty associated with it, and that uncertainty can be very learning how to navigate that uncertainty it's not easy. It's not an easy kind of thing. It's a very personal type of thing that impacts people all the way down to kind of their core, together and separately.
So is it basically also the premise of it is really starting to do things differently than how you've done them in the past?
It's being willing to do things differently than you've done them in the past, and being willing to, there's this fundamental human desire to do things the way we've always done them, because the way we've always done them has worked for us. And there's enormous
we feel
uncertainty,
comfortable too.
or we feel comfortable with it. Yeah. And we only have so much capacity to try new things at this, and so we, I don't know if it's evolutionary or not, but I do think we kind of met out, carefully dole out that little bit of ourselves that's the deal with the new stuff, the extra energy on top of things. And so the question is how do you lead an organization to do that? Now, the challenge is one of balancing. It's balancing, optimizing in the current state within the constraints of everything that's going on, with this idea of being able to put a stake in a future. And putting a stake in a future doesn't mean you know exactly what that future is. It's actually putting stake in a potential. It's like, right, because unless you have that potential, you have nothing to grab for. And if you have nothing to grab for, you never change. So then you choose, so you choose and you move towards that. And then you learn and you reevaluate your experiences, and then often what you think it is changes, and then it's a new thing.
Yeah.
And that's the journey. Yeah.
So you have to be willing to, okay, we're going to reach out for this new vision. All right, things aren't always going to work out just as we see it in our head. We're going to have to change it up a little bit just as we keep going to make it, refine it, and make it, to keep making it more effective.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And so that journey that you're in together is made up of something called event horizons. And so these are moments in time, and before them, you can't predict what's going to happen after them. So let's say you've got a new, and then after them, all you can do is learn as quickly as possible because the world has changed, right? There's different kinds of uncertainty before them and after. Uncertainty of not knowing, uncertainty of having to just sit tight and stay focused until it occurs, and the uncertainty of all actually recognizing and aligning on the fact that it's actually occurred and actually implementing it. So imagine I'm on a team and we have a new leader who's going to come. I can't tell you what the new leader's what it's going to be like until after the new leaders arrived.
Yeah.
What I can do is I can keep my colleagues from worrying, because it's a total waste of time. People, they position themselves, they get themselves in all of that emotional energy.
Yeah.
And then the moment the new leader or the new product or the new whatever it is, and the better has been brought, then now the other thing is how fast can we just acknowledge we're in this new world and move towards it? And now your entire, right. So it's that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it that you've gone there, because I've been in a number of positions where the company either brought on new leadership or as you said, new product, maybe new software, and everyone's like, and there's this super panic that goes on in the beginning. Maybe new leadership, everyone's worried, am I going to lose my job? And you got to calm the seas, as it were, and say, okay, this is not because we're getting ready to just send you off to sea, everyone. No. This is so we can all operate in the new world as we go forward, because we're growing. We want to serve our marketplace and our customers in the best fashion, and this is why we're making these changes, not because we're looking to get rid of you all, but let's move forward and be positive about this. And ultimately what I think people are really scared about, maybe more so than their jobs, is change, because change is a little scary, and there'll probably be things done differently that will make a little uncomfortable in the beginning.
I actually, it's funny,
Tell me.
I'm not sure if I agree people are afraid of change.
Really?
Let me explain. I think they're afraid of the consequences of change and being out of control. And let me be more specific. People are afraid they're going to lose their place at the table. They're afraid they're going to be trapped playing a role that they don't like. They're afraid that they're afraid of all the what ifs, and they're afraid because they don't trust that their colleagues are going to make sure it works out, right? So there's this.
So some of the fear is founded, actually, in some cases.
Well, it's founded. Yeah, it is an expression of their experience, right? This comes back. I mean, look, if you the way you get to know a complex system like a business is to try to change it, and then you discover. That's how you actually discover what it is. And what you discover the minute, if you poke your system and if you're a leader and you say, all right, I want to introduce a new product, just some change, and people aren't going to follow you, you've actually just discovered you have a toxic workplace. Whoa. That is a toxic workplace. You just didn't realize it, because what you've just done is you've just shown that people don't have the trust. That's toxic.
Wow.
Right? By definition. It's low level toxicity. It's the kind of toxicity that, a little bit of poison and the fish are still alive, but you can't drink the water, right? It's not good, not having any babies, ecosystem's going to die, but it kind of looks super clear right now with any of that messy bacteria, none of that messy algae floating around. I mean, I guess it was, there's back to Germany, a German writer named Goethe, right? And he's famous for a phrase, which is, you become what you tolerate. And so what happens is leaders don't recognize, they literally don't recognize until change needs to occur, that they are tolerating a low level of toxicity that is just absolutely keeping it's keeping the potential of the people in their organization from being realized. And what's so extraordinary about human beings is if we can come together and around a vision, and we can all bring the best of ourselves, we can bend reality towards that vision, often very quickly, without fear and without people hating change, in a way that people trust each other and they're actually in it together.
Yeah.
And that's what I decode in the book, is how to actually get to that place.
Wow. Well, I think all businesses, whether you're in a moment of change or not, or thinking about transformation in the near future, which everyone should be as the world continues to change, and so should your business, where can people get a copy of your book, Navigate the Swirl? You can get it at Amazon, of course. It's available in hard copy, which is my favorite because it's just the best format. But it's also Kindle, and there's an audiobook with a wonderful actor who has this British voice. It makes me sound remarkably sophisticated. So that one's kind of fun. My daughters and wife have been completely teasing me. They walk around imitating the voice and quoting things at me, which I think is it's fun. But yeah, you can do that. If you want to find out more about me, you can go to our website. My company is growthriver.com. So it's Growth River and it's .com. And there are all sorts of things on the website for me and my colleagues. And anyone happens to be watching this video on YouTube or our website, it's right there down below. So you can see the website there anytime during our interview together. And I just have to thank you again, Richard Hawks, for coming to Savvy Broadcasting today and sharing your great wisdom.
Thank you very much. This has just really been pleasant. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.